Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. We talk about horror movies. I'm Peter, that is Tim, the professor himself,
Mhm.
which is an ironic nickname for Tim because he knows less than I do about horror movies.
No, not true. Can
So
tell
true.
yourself to sleep at night if you like, but
It's so true.
nope.
Nothing's ever been more true.
Nope.
Well, we'll see. We'll put the knowledge to the test because in this episode of Screams After Midnight, we are talking about a movie from Korea, South Korea. It's called
Mhm.
Train to Busan. It is a film that came out this year, so it's a relatively new release,
Mhm.
and it's zombies on a train.
Mhm.
To sum it up, we will start spoiler free and give you a general sort of overview of whether we liked it, what it's about, that kind of thing, without getting any spoilers, and then we'll warn you before we past that, leave the station. Before we leave the station into spoilers. See what I did there,
Good
Tim?
job.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to talk about. So, Train to Busan. You know, it's funny. I had never heard of this movie over a week ago. Like, you know, about a week ago, you vaguely remember because I said, Tim, we've not done a lot of zombie movies. Let's do a zombie movie, and we're maybe going to pick an old movie. We're going to, maybe we'll do. We've not done, the Romero movies yet. We've not done this. We've
Mhm.
not done that. And you went, oh wait, I think there's a Korean zombie movie that's meant to be good.
Yeah, it's one of those weird ones where I think I had saw someone like post about it like months ago, and in fact, it might even have been like James from the Mild Fuzz group.
All right, okay.
I could be wrong, but for some reason, I think he had talked about it before, and
I hope he watches this and then sends us a message saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. This was not me.
if he does, don't listen to him. He's obviously a liar. But no, for whatever reason, yeah, we decided to do it, and holy crap, I'm so glad that we did because I absolutely loved this movie.
Interesting. Interesting. No, I'm with you, Tim. That was fantastic.
Okay, I was waiting, like, oh, did you not like it? I was really surprised, but
I, I was adding a bit of suspense to the
yeah.
to the show, Tim. That was all that was. No, this was really good. This
And
was right up my alley.
it was funny because sometimes I always like doing the show, but sometimes when it comes to watching the movies, like depending on the week or the day you had, you're a little like,
Oh, and did you
all
start
right,
by
I got.
saying sometimes I enjoy doing this show?
No, I said I always enjoy
Oh,
doing the
okay, okay,
show.
all right,
It's
okay.
sometimes it's watching the movies
That's
that's like a
fine.
little like, and I watched this the other day when I got home from work and I was tired and like and not the best mood, and then you kind of look at it, it's like a 2 hour
Yeah,
foreign.
which to be fair, like for us, because horror movies tend to be short. Like when I looked at the runtime, I went 2 hours. Like when when me and Matt do movies on 121 and we go see new movies, we've seen Arrival, we see a superhero movie, whatever. It's kind of common for a lot of those to be like 2.5, sometimes approaching 3 hours. It's just kind of normal. But on this show, when we're doing horror movies, it tends to be 90 minutes, sometimes 80 minutes. So 2 hours
Yeah.
does look a lot when you're used to it only being about, you know, 80, 90 minutes.
Yeah, and like a lot of those movies that we see in the theater, like I'll go see that on the weekend when I have more energy. I'm a little more excited, and
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of the movies for here I'll watch like after work on Monday when I'm like
Yeah,
dreading the rest of the week. And
yeah,
so
and,
yeah, I wasn't really.
yeah, it's Monday, rest of the week. You come home, you think, crap, I need to watch Friend Request. You die a little bit inside. You get 10 minutes
Exactly.
in, you pause it, you get the booze out. You chug
Yeah.
some booze. You watch another
Yeah.
10 minutes, and then you contemplate. Is suicide an option? Like, what?
Right.
Who will miss me if I just end it now? Because that's what this movie's doing to me. You know,
Yeah. But
and
this was one of those like saving graces though, where I was like very, very quickly like, hooked into it.
yeah, Joe, what got me first of all is that the movie it takes its time introducing its main characters.
Yep.
So, and not only do you get introduced to the main couple of characters who you really care about, see in the
Mhm.
second half of this movie, there wasn't a single character who died that I didn't care about.
Yeah.
Like I cared about all of them. I was upset that all of them died.
There wasn't really any like cannon fodder. Like they were all like realized characters, and like even like the people that you
Yeah,
think at first are going to be tropes. Like there's like a jerky kind of guy. He ends up being like one of the best characters in the movie.
yeah. Well, The only thing I'll argue with what you said, technically there is cannon fodder in the sense that there's a lot of passengers on
Oh,
the train
yeah, yeah.
that are their purpose is to be cannon
Right,
fodder.
right,
But
right.
yeah, out of the characters that we actually learn and we know them and we
Yes.
are giving some sort of like traits and stuff. Yeah, like
The main characters.
yeah, the main
Yeah,
sort
kind
of core
yeah.
group. And the other thing I love about this movie is it's got a lot of heart. It's got a really nice message about people not being selfish and like helping each other and you know like just good values that it's trying to get across to us. And also this movie has one of the best realized villains in a movie like this in a long time.
Yes.
Like I hated. We'll talk about in spoilers why and so on. And but there's a character in this who I hated. Joe, it reminded me almost of, and we've not actually done an episode on this movie, and we will at some point. I have no doubt. But there's a character in The Mist who everyone hates with a passion,
Yes.
but not because they're a bad character, but because you're supposed to hate. Because they keep messing up and or not messing up in like a goofy way, but like they have such an opposing view to everyone else, and they actively like go against the main characters. They are the antagonist in
Yeah.
such a fundamental way that you hate them with every fiber of their being.
Yeah, and like even though horror is like a genre where it's much darker and a lot of more like violent, crazy stuff happens, but like for the most part, usually when you watch it, like, or at least for me, like I'm not rooting for people to die usually for the most part, but every now and again you get these villains that are so like horrendous, and like
Yeah.
it does such a good job of building up your hate for them that you can't
Which-
help but get like excited.
I mean, I think when you watch slasher movies and stuff, there is an element of wanting, like, rooting for people to die, but it's not the same thing. It's more like, oh, I'm here to watch fun and kill, so I'm rooting for it in that I want to see a stupid death, or I want to see,
Right.
what Jason's going to do with this sharp object, like how he's going to,
Yeah.
Whereas this is, no. I want this person to die because I hate them. Because I hate everything they have done. Like, so many people die as a result of this asshole in this movie. Like,
Yes.
literally dozens. You can actually trace it all back to, like, a decision halfway through the movie, and you could save dozens of lives because of this asshole.
He is the worst.
He is the worst. But I thought that was great. Like, by the time I got to the second half of the movie, I cared about so many characters. I hated him so much. So I still care. Like, I care in the opposite way, but I care. I'm so invested in what's going on. And on top of all that, it's basically like, well, I'm going to say Die Hard on a train, but with zombies, which technically means it's Under Siege 2 with zombies. But that's maybe a deep cut reference. But like, it's just the idea that it's like this sort of like everything's on the train, and the train's almost kind of like the reason why they're kind of safe, but also there's a lot of danger because it's tight spaces and so on.
On the
A lot of fun.
surface, it sounds like it could be a little gimmicky. Like, you could kind of see the like, oh, all right, it's what haven't we done with zombies yet? Have we done a train movie with them yet? I don't know. Maybe let's do it. But it actually works really well to its advantage, and like, yeah, it doesn't feel like a gimmicky
Nah.
at all, really.
I think you could argue that, yeah, the core idea, zombies on a train, right? If that's all you say to someone, they go, oh, it's just a gimmicky zombie movie.
Yeah.
But it's well written, it's well performed. Characters have a purpose. There's an arc. There's a message. There's a heart to it. There's a great villain. Everything, and it's exciting. It's tense. It's this good action sequences. It actually plays with all the different things that it sets up on the train, like how the doors open. How do we use that like, for and against the zombies? Like, how do these zombies in this movie work compared to other zombies? Do they have a weakness? If they have a weakness, and you know what scene I'm talking about as I say this, you're like, how do we exploit that weakness?
Yeah.
And like, I would say, yeah, it's maybe, it feels more like a zombie action movie rather than a horror movie, I'd say, for the most part.
Yeah.
That said, there are some really good tense scenes, certainly once you get about halfway through onwards. There's a sneaking past and like things like that where there's some good tension. But it actually reminds me maybe more of a disaster movie in a lot of ways.
I can see that. Yeah.
But no, really, really good.
Let me maybe ask you this real quick, and then maybe we can get into spoilers. But
Sure.
overall, how did you feel about the zombies themselves? Like, did you like the way they acted, how they looked, the special effects in terms of that?
Special effects were good. I didn't have a problem with how they looked,
Yeah.
certainly. I thought it was an interesting mix of old school zombie, but with the speed of like one of the quicker types.
Yes. So I'm not a big. I don't know if we've talked about this before, because
I don't know if I talked about it on the show. I've definitely heard your opinion on fast zombies off the show.
yeah, I'm not the biggest fan. Like, I mean, I'm not totally against them, but if I have to choose, I definitely prefer the old school Romero kind of shambling ghoul
Yeah.
type of zombie. But I thought it worked really well in this. I liked that they had this very kind of like a very stiff way of moving, especially when they kind of first, transform. That I thought like looked pretty cool. Um, and then yeah, the when they are kind of running and amassing and stuff, I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was done pretty well in this movie.
Yeah, I thought the way their head moved and the way they sort of like, like their head like cranked and stuff, that was
Yeah,
very old school. And but then the way they sort of swarmed, it was almost like a sort of miniature version of like the World War Z stuff,
right.
where they'd sort of like all go up against the window, but they'd sort of swarm over each other, kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought it was like maybe a little more like believable, like the World War Z stuff. Like,
It was like a
it's kind of
mountain. Yeah, it
yeah,
was like
it's like so over the top. But this is like, oh, like this is actually I can digest this a little easier.
yeah. And like I said, there's a couple of other things to the zombie mythos in this movie that they add, which I won't spoil because it is kind of a plot reveal at one point that they have this extra dynamic to them, which I was also cool with because it's just like yeah, like every zombie in every movie doesn't have to be the same rules exactly as a zombie in an X movie. Do you know what I liked about this?
So,
And I wouldn't call this a spoiler. I think this is still in firmly spoiler-free territory. Not a single character in this entire movie ever has a gun.
oh yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it, but you're right. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no.
And I think that really separates it from. And this is not a problem with guns and zombie movies. It's just that this makes them more vulnerable because they can't just shoot them in the head. That's usually how you
Yeah,
deal with it. And it also means they have to get by with just simple things. I think the best weapon any of them ever get in this movie is a baseball bat. That is the best they ever get. They'll even get a knife.
yeah. Oh, actually, and this isn't really too much of a spoiler either because it happens pretty early on. But I like that there are like people like they just straight up will like fight the zombies. Like they'll punch them, they'll kick them,
Hmm.
which like I feel like you don't see like uh that often. Like people just going like hand to hand with the
Honestly,
zombies.
the hand-to-hand combat stuff is when I thought, you know what, this really is Under Siege 2 with zombies. Like I was like, this guy is basically Steven Seagal but Korean. This is what's going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, so the main characters, we've got a dad and we've got his little girl, and he's a crap dad. He's basically too focused on work. He's divorced from his wife, and the girl wants to go on the train to Busan because that's where she is. And it's just as they're getting on the train where things are kind of starting to go nuts, and so they're not aware of it. But then one zombie gets on the train, and then hell breaks loose, and it kind of leads to everything. And as you could probably imagine, the arc of the movie for him as the main character is to not be much a dick and learn to care about others because he's very selfish at the start of the movie. He's very, even with his daughter, he's very selfish and kind of ignores her almost. And he has a real growing arc over the course of the movie, which is the sort of thing that a lot of movies like this would not bother with. But this actually gave it a good heart. And the daughter's core like conflict with how he acts kind of then extends to just like groups of people as a whole as they're deciding to help and not help each other and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think it plays out really, really well throughout the movie. So that's
And
what
it
I
doesn't
get across.
it doesn't feel like forced. Yeah, like
No,
and like it's very like it's a very natural like progression of the character, and then by the end it feels like really deserved.
yeah,
Um and yeah, that I yeah, I like that too. I thought yeah, and not just him, like all the other characters really you meet too like all feel like very fully fleshed out and realized characters that you kind of come to like and appreciate.
yeah. So we're leaving the spoiler station. So full spoilers from this point on for Train to Busan. So you have been warned.
Not much of a spoiler, but I do appreciate your restraint with when talking about him being a bad dad, not making a wee joke.
Oh, I was getting to that. I was waiting for spoilers. So yeah, we start this movie off and we see that he's work obsessed. He's missed his daughter's like recital where she was singing a song just for him, and he even watches a clip of it later that his mum, her grandma, has recorded for him, and she breaks down halfway through and can't finish because she's too nervous, and you're like, oh man, you're a shit dad, and it's her birthday the next day, and he's like bought her a present, and she opens it, and it's a Nintendo Wii, and she looks distraught, and a minute later, like they cut across the room, and the reason why she's distraught is because she already had one that presumably he bought her. But I was laughing my ass off during this scene because before they revealed that's why she was upset, I was thinking was like, that she was thinking, "You bought me a Wii in 2016." Not a Wii U. Let me just specify this for the gamers out there. Not a Wii U, which would be bad enough because the Switch is like right around the corner. No, he bought her a Wii.
Oh man, yeah, I love Nintendo, but yeah, even I would have been like disappointed if I got that present nowadays. Be like, really? All right.
Oh my god! Like maybe from like a distant relative who you expect not to spend much on you.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd still be like, "What? You even found this? How did you find this?"
Yeah.
Oh god. But yeah, so they go on the train, and we obviously there's a lot of stuff with she's on the phone to her mother, and she wants to go to her. She doesn't want to stay with her dad anymore, and we set up their relationship and how sort of disjointed they are, and you know. It gets us on the train, and once we get on the train, we get introduced to some other characters. There's a baseball team there. There's the main baseball guy, and then the girl that he's kind of into, and she's kind of like really forward and cracks jokes in front of all the other guys around him.
Now, did you notice? I don't think it's at this scene, but I think it's another scene when we come back to the baseball team. But do you see in the background? There's just two players that are tickling each other.
I did not notice this. No.
There's I don't think it's the first scene with them, but like and there's another time we cut back, and then there's just like you're focusing on like the main kid and that girl, I believe, but then if you look in the background, just two of the players are just like tickling each other. It's so weird.
I did not notice that. That's upsetting.
I'll have to find out when it was and have you go back and watch it.
Yeah. The other main characters we get introduced to is a sort of man who I'm going to refer to as Korean Steven Seagal from this point forth. He earns that name a little bit later. And his pregnant wife. And they have a bit of conflict with our main character, whose name I will just grab. The chances of us remembering all these names are really slim at the best of times, never mind when they're all in a different language. But the main character's name's Sok-woo, so we have one point of reference. But he his job, he's like a fund manager, so he's even Korean Steven Seagal's even looking at him being like, you're a bit of a bloodsucker, you're out for yourself, and so they have this conflict, which obviously just like heightens when Sok-woo just almost doesn't open, he actually shuts the door on him at one point when he's running from a zombie, and then he goes back and opens it, but it's this bit of conflict, and again, this is very much in the start of the arc when he's still a dick, but later on, when they actually stop at a station and they get out, he has a moment to, like, Steven Seagal, Korean Steven Seagal, has a moment where he saves him and helps him out, and they start helping each other, and they sort of, the bond and all that. So there's a lot of chaos early on with all this stuff. There's also a guy who, I don't think he's actually homeless, but he looks kind of disheveled, as if, maybe he's been through something that morning,
Yeah, he's like I don't know, vagrant or something.
Yeah, he's got kind of longish hair, and he looks a little bit dirty, but not. So obviously there's a lot of chaos as the zombie breakout's happening, and they kind of get compartmentalised on different parts of the train, but they eventually stop at one of the first stations, and they get off, and they think they're going to go to the army and get like evacuated or whatever, but of course the city's already in ruins and zombie.
I thought this was like a great. I don't know what you'd say, like not like a twist, but like the reveal of seeing all like the army guys and thinking like, oh, okay, we're gonna like change locations or have a new setting or a new group of characters, and then they all just turn around and they're all zombies too, and they start chasing people up the escalators. And I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for me, I kind of just knew it, partly because the movie's called Train to Busan, but also just because I kind of feel like they're definitely going back to the train because they
Yeah.
set up quite soon after this that Busan's the one city left that might be safe, like it might be defended, and they were able to hold it. And the train drivers heard this, and the asshole businessman, which we alluded to in the first part. Like, this is kind of the first part of the movie where he kind of becomes a thing where we see him like arguing with the train driver. We need to go to Busan. We can't stop here. And obviously all these zombies come in, and the main character almost gets killed, but he gets saved, and everyone runs back to the train. And there's some great moments where Korean Steven Seagal like picks up like a fake shield and sword and starts
Oh yeah.
whacking them as because the train's leaving, and like these last few people are trying to get on. And the rest of the baseball people have been wiped out except the main baseball kid and the girl. But
I
anyway,
so I was just gonna say, I really like Korean Steven Seagal, just how quickly he kind of adapts to the situation. Like he's not like a reluctant hero at all. He's just like a total badass. Like instantly, like all right, this is what's happening. Like let's do it.
Yeah.
And he holds his own pretty well for a good chunk of the movie.
what I really like when they get back on the train at this point though is that we have the main bulk of people who's it's really just the asshole businessman and like, the one of the conductors and like they're there. The pregnant lady with Sokwo's daughter and one of the older ladies is like
Yeah.
they get trapped in like a bathroom because there's just zombies outside like in the car they happen to get into when they're running for the train. And then up sort of further back up the car or up the train, we in one car we have baseball kid, Korean Steven Seagal, and Sokwo, and they get messages from the others, via the phone, and they know where they are. So it becomes this mission. Okay, we have to get through 3 cars filled with zombies to get there and save them, and then we have to get through another 2 after that to get to the main bulk of people.
Yeah.
And it becomes this little mission, and I really like that because at that point I feel like okay, we have a because by this point it's like characters just reacting to things, and there's something very exciting about when the characters then say no, here's a plan, we're going to be proactive, and we're going to do this. And this is of course when they all tape up and start hitting zombies with baseball bats and all sorts. And Korean Steven Seagal earns his name Korean Steven Seagal because he does that thing where he sort of like gets one of their heads like in like a lock and then snaps his neck like, and I'm not even sure if that kills the zombie or whatever, but it just
You'll allow it
yeah,
in this
yeah,
movie.
all of it, yeah, all of it. It's when they actually are getting like so they do all this and we get a lot of fun stuff here. Mainly they'll learn that the zombies can't see in the dark. Their vision's really bad, and they have to rely on sound. And we get this great sequence. Once they get the there's some great stuff just with them like tricking them with ringing the phone and all that and making them move where they need to. But the great scene is once they actually get the girls out of the bathroom, is they have to like crawl up the storage, the luggage
Like
storage,
baggage. Yeah.
sort of like hold at the top of the train, over the top of the zombies while they're going through a tunnel. Because they actually, at one point, Sokbu actually looks it up and finds, okay, there's a tunnel coming up in, a couple of minutes. It'll give us 2 minutes of darkness.
Yeah, and it's just one of those really like fun things where you're finding interesting ways to play with like the setting and like the discovery of it, like when they go through like that first tunnel, then everything gets dark, and then like you see the zombies kind of start getting all bewildered and stuff, and then them kind of realizing it and using it to their advantage was just like a really fun little plot point.
I want to apologise to people for the sound that my cat keeps making. There's actually been several edits at this point in the video because he just got so loud at one point that we had to pause for a little while. So I'm just letting you know that the little meows and the wood, I don't know if you can hear the wood clanking, and that's the wood under my bed that he's hitting against because he's in a really hyper mood for some reason.
I think it's okay. The people on the internet have a high tolerance to cats, so
They do. Now he's licking his ass. Yeah, lick your ass. That's quiet. Keep doing that. Now he's running around. Oh, good God. Yeah. So, but yeah, this is when the sort of the heart of the movie kind of because at this point, Sok-woo's starting to work more with the guys and he's being more thingy. But the themes of the film come full circle, or not full circle, but they really come up here because basically the asshole businessman decides that when he hears that these people are coming to the train. There's survivors coming up the train to them. He convinces everyone else in this car that they might be infected and they can't trust them. And the baseball girl is there with them, and she's like, "No, we need to let them in." And it gets to the point where he has the conductor like holding her with his hand over the mouth, so that when they get to the door, they're all trying to not make noise. Unlike my cat, who keeps making noise right now. So we have this like them being awful and not letting them in, and they have to actually fight their way, and they have to actually smash their way through the door, and it's like, and it leads to, of course, the Korean Steven Seagal's death, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it's a good example though of like how, like you see like just one loud asshole can like kind of like take charge of like for what is the most part. Like, I think most people on the train were good people, and probably I don't think many people had a problem, but he was just like so like loud and insistent and boisterous about it. I just feel like it was a good example of how someone like that can like take power.
I feel like everything you just said applied to something that just happened in the world very recently. I won't say what it is, but I'm sure people can draw conclusions themselves.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
But yeah, no, I really like this Korean, and there's even a point when like they're holding the door shut for these people to get in, and the asshole business guy sees the girl. He sees the little girl crying through the window, and he still doesn't let up. He's still this selfish.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah. And then, and yeah, you mentioned, the death of Korean Steven Seagal. It's like, again, the character development was so good that this was actually like a pretty touching scene, especially with early in the movie, they're talking about his pregnant wife and how they haven't picked out a name for the baby yet, and then like that's kind of like his last words are him yelling out his wife like, "Hey, like the baby's name," and then just destroyed by zombies.
Yeah, and also he goes out like a complete champ as well, because he's been bit and he knows he's turning, so he's like sacrificing himself at this point because he knows he may as well, so that everyone can get away. And he picks up a zombie sort of body slam style and holds it like almost like a bar so that the other zombies can't get past, and he just stands there holding it for as long as he can until he turns, and it's just so badass.
Yeah.
So no, he goes out like a right champ. But it's when they get in the room though, the car, the train car, and Sok-woo just goes up to the businessman and punches him in the face. It is the most satisfying punch ever. But his reign of terror is not ended yet, because he convinces everyone else that they're probably going to turn still, so they make them go to the next car through and lock them in, so they're away. But of course, luckily this is when the real hero of the film, the old woman whose sister was one of the ones who get sacrificed because this asshole wouldn't let them through, goes up and opens the door and lets the zombies in, and everyone in there gets killed. That said though, the most heartbreaking thing about all this though is that when the asshole is convincing everyone that they're still going to be infected, we have to make them move, they all start chanting at them to get out, and it is like, what's wrong with you people? This is so dark and depressed. Stop it. This is awful.
Yeah. And it's like, and I feel like it could like very easily be solved. It's like, you could be like, hey, do you want us to strip down and show you that like there's no bites, or like, hey, how about we just stand over here in this corner, and if we start turning, you can beat us, or something like. I feel like there could have been a much easier solution.
Honestly, I think going to the next car up is still a relatively fair idea if they don't trust them, but I feel like you don't chant at them as if they're, as if they're like lepers who should be like, it should just be a case of like, we don't know for sure if you've not been turned yet. How about you agree to go to the next car, but it's still safe up there. It's not any less safe in there than it is here.
Sure, yeah.
Just be diplomatic about it. But no, they chant like a stupid angry mob. And nothing makes me angrier than an angry mob who is wrong about things.
It's almost as if a zombie movie was trying to tell us that man is the real monster. They would never do that in a zombie movie, though. Come on.
Yeah. Just 95% of them. So yeah, all this happens, and
then they get to Busan, no problem.
Yeah, no, that's not what happens. And of course, even at this point, stupid businessman and the conductor, who are the two worst offenders of this whole ordeal, end up surviving because they got to the bathroom in time. We find that out a little bit later. But the train has to stop. They get to like a sort of a train yard. It's not a station. It's like a train yard with like spare trains and whatnot. And they have to stop because there's like another train that's like blocking the way. It's like, tumbled over onto the track.
Yeah.
And I will say, if I'm going to have any complaints about like effects wise, some of these wide shots at this sort of section of the movie where you can see like parts were on fire and there's like smoke rising up, that looked a little bit rough,
Yeah, it's kind of weird that there's just something about like like I feel like when you see the CGI in like foreign movies, like a lot of times I feel like it doesn't look bad, but it just like looks different. Like it's kind of hard to describe. Like just something about it is like, oh, like I don't think this is necessarily bad, but for some reason it doesn't look like the CGI that I'm used to. I don't know if that's like just me or something, but I don't know. It's weird.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say it just looks more like TV CGI than it does big
Yeah.
budget movie CGI. That would be my summary of it. But so this is again another sort of, and I like how this movie's split up because you have the initial train stuff, you have them stopping at the station, then they get back on, then you have all the great creeping stuff, and then they have them stop here, and this is the next section, and they realise that they can't stay on this train, they have to go to a new train to get to Busan, and we have. And this is where the asshole businessman like goes from like a 10 in hatred to a 15, because he then he individually like, okay, the train conductor that he like throws to the zombie so he can get away from the bathroom. You know what? He was also a bit of an asshole, so
Yeah.
I'm not even that upset about that. He then pulls like the baseball girl to the zombie so he can get through, and then the baseball guy is so distraught by this that he like just stays with her until she turns, and then he kills her. So those two just directly die.
Yeah. That was a nice little moment though of them being together.
Yeah, but like I was just
It was sad, but
I was like getting so angry at this point, and then the idiot gets the train driver who's actually got the other train, got it moving, and he gets him killed. He gets him killed. The one who can drive the train. You moron. What is wrong with you?
yeah, it's not even that he's being like, selfish and stuff. It's just he's being dumb.
Yeah, well, he's been both. He's selfish, dumb,
Yeah.
everything in between. God. And, we have other stuff here, like the homeless style guy. Like, he sacrifices himself. He,
Oh yeah. That's
he,
nice.
he does what he can to make sure that the others can get away. And at this point, we are left with literally Sokwu, his daughter, and the pregnant lady. Well, this is our characters now. And they get to this one little train car that's like, just the main part, the front. I don't know. Is there a special name for that?
The back's the caboose, right?
You know what I mean? The actual front
yeah,
with the engine and
Yeah.
everything,
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, but
Yeah, so that's just on its own and it's driving out, and they run up and get to it, and we have this really fun sort of little sequence of all the zombies like grabbing at the back of the train and trying to hold on, and
Yeah.
Sukwu has to like kick them all off.
that was cool. I like that part.
Evil businessman's on the train, and unfortunately he's already turning, which I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed, right, that we didn't get to see the moment where he realised he was screwed, because
Yeah.
we were kind of owed that. I was kind of waiting for it. Like, my one main disappointment of this movie is that I didn't get to see him get scared because he realised that he was screwed. Because everything
Yeah.
he'd done had finally come back to bite him. It was already happening when we catch up to him. So that kind of bugged me, but otherwise. But anyway, so Sukwu has to sacrifice himself. He gets bit by evil businessman before he manages to throw him off the train, and we have the sad ending where it's left to just the girl and the pregnant lady. And at this point, I'm thinking, look, give these two a happy enough ending, please. At this point, you've killed everyone I've cared about. It has
Yeah.
been. I'm so distraught at this point. And it's worth mentioning that by the time we get here, we have had scenes where Sukwu finally sort of, realizes what he's been to his daughter, and he has the heart to heart to her, and she, again, 180 from the start of the movie, where she was like,
Yeah.
"No, I want to go with Mum. I don't want to be with you anymore." She's like, "I don't want you to leave, Dad." Like she's begging him, "I don't want you to go anywhere." So we have that
Yeah.
emotional arc. So when
I'm getting emotional just remembering it. It was it
yeah,
was like really sad.
so when Sokwu goes to the back of the train because he's about to turn, and throws himself off the back of the train, which we see the shadow of it happening in slow motion as piano
Yeah.
music's playing, and it's
It's well
heartbreaking.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really well done. And my cats are still being noisy in the back. They are being really annoying tonight. I am really getting angry at them. I'm not gonna lie. It's not even the noise. It's my train of thought. No pun intended. My train of thought keeps getting interrupted because the noises,
Yeah.
and it's really annoying me. But anyway, um, so yeah, so we have this ending where the train stops just outside of a tunnel because they're presumably just at Busan, and the pregnant lady and the girl go in and they're walking together, and we cut to these two soldiers that are sort of at the perimeter of wherever it's safe, right? And they call out, "Oh, there's two people, like there's two subjects moving down the tunnel," and they're like, "Can you verify that it's humans and not zombies?" And they're like, "Well, no, because it's really dark and we can't tell." And because like they're hurt and they're walking slow, they're kind of stumbling. It
Yeah.
looks like they could
I
be zombies.
I got really nervous at this point.
Yeah, I was getting pretty nervous because it like, oh man, I almost feel like because it's not like an American like Hollywood movie that no one's safe. Like I feel like
Right.
they're more likely in this compared to the usual movies we watch to just have the ultra dark ending. But
Yeah.
but then there's this really nice moment where they actually, but just before he's about to shoot them, like he's getting ready to pull the trigger. And I almost thought that maybe the way this was going to end, assuming it was going to have a happy ending, well, happy as you can have after all these people have died, is the soldier would decide to wait on his own despite his orders, just in case there's a chance. Because again, it's that coming back to this idea of helping people and
Yeah.
doing what you can to save them. But instead, we got this completely different, beautiful moment where the girl actually starts singing the song that she learned for a recital that her father never got to hear, and it's because they hear the singing they know it can't be
Yeah.
zombies, and that's the end of the movie. So it was a really, really touching ending.
Yeah, it comes full circle. Like the song she wasn't able to finish before, now she sings the whole thing and saves them. It's very nice.
But I think for me, what's really impressive is it has all this heart, these characters you care about. But on top of all that, it actually is just a fun like action movie. Sneaking around the train and try to get past, and
Yeah.
all these survival elements. Like everything about it just works really well. I have very, very little to complain about.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Yeah, like I like all the zombie stuff was great. The action was great. The characters were really good. You feel very attached to them, and like we said, 2 hours, but it really flew by. Like there wasn't any time that I was ever bored or like checking my phone. I was like fully engrossed in it.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is out of nowhere, but
Yeah.
like probably one of the better movies of the year. Like I'm
Yeah.
really into it. So
Now,
it's Train to Busan.
two quick things I want to mention. We didn't mention at the start, but in the opening, there's a deer that gets run over, and then it gets resurrected, and like stands back up and everything. Um, I just want to say like our last movie we watched that had a lot of CGI deer, it was not very good. So I was a little nervous at that point, but um,
Was that The Ring 2? Just to refresh my memory.
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
just wanted to check.
So I was like, I don't know, CGI deer, never a good sign, but um, ended up being very well. And then secondly, there was this music that they would play every now and again. That's kind of like very soft piano music. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know if that stood out to you.
Yeah, the sort of emotional theme that came in every once in a while. Yeah,
But did it remind you of like the Resident Evil save room music at all?
can't say it did.
I don't know, really like every time I heard it, I mean, maybe it's because I just played the games a little while back, um, and I don't know. Also, zombies on a train, maybe a little Resident Evil Zero.
So you specifically
A
think it
throwback.
was the Resident Evil Zero save room music, or
Yeah, I think Zero.
because it sounds nothing like two or three for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so long since I played two or three, but yeah, it's just like I think it was Zero. But yeah, like when you go in, there's that kind of like calming, just very like soft piano music. I don't know, when I heard it in this movie, it reminded me of that, but maybe I was just grasping at straws.
I think you were, and the only reason why I say that is because I play those games a lot, like fairly frequently. So
Yeah,
I feel like if it did sound like one of them, I'd probably have picked up on it.
I might have just been thinking like, oh, zombies, soft piano music,
Yeah, yeah, you may have just
but
been making that link. Yeah, but no,
uh,
this was really really good. So, Train to Busan. Let's do some ratings out of the old 10.
obviously we both love it. I'm gonna go pretty high. Um, I'm gonna give it an 8.5, but I will also say that this is something I would like to watch again, and it could even get bumped up a little bit, maybe on further rewatches. But for now, I'm gonna give it a very nice 8.5.
Cool. I I'm gonna go a little bit high. I'm gonna say 9. I would go a solid 9 out of 10 on this one.
Yeah, see, that's why I was kind of thinking that, but like sometimes it's just hard, like when with newer movies, you don't want to like jump the gun and go too high sometimes, but I can definitely see it like being in 9 territory.
I think for me, it's probably one of the best zombie movies, and since Wreck, probably.
Whew. Definitely like non-comedy zombie uh movies. I'm trying to think what the when the last really good one was.
It
I
was
mean, yeah, I
Wreck.
could.
Oh well, arguably Wreck too, I suppose. But that you kind of just think of that as an extension of that. So Wreck
Yeah. When did 28 Days Later come out before or after Wreck?
before,
Before. Okay. Then, yeah. I guess it must have been Wreck, huh?
and 28 Days Later wasn't that good. So
Well, it's been a while since I watched it. I liked it though. Um,
I have extended thoughts on that, but we'll save that for one day when we actually talk about that movie.
Interesting. Um, yeah, I guess maybe I wonder if it's been a while since we got in a serious one because like actually it was funny after I watched this I was looking for like something else to watch and I was catching up on some stuff on Netflix. I ended up watching Night of the Living Dead, so I had a little bit of a zombie double feature. But I
That's a
feel like we
fun.
get
That's a fun movie though.
oh yeah, definitely, yeah, I enjoyed it. But yeah, I feel like we get a lot more zombie comedies as opposed to
It's
serious
because
ones.
it's because no one takes them seriously anymore.
Yeah.
So it's seen as something for comedy rather than actual straight horror as much these days. But no, this is I really really highly recommend Train to Busan. So do check it out if you have made it to the end of this and haven't seen it. I thoroughly recommend it. So thank you very much for watching. Check out our Tales from the Crypt reviews that we do once a week, and check out the other stuff we do. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot if we do. Apologies for my rebellious cats in this episode, which were distracting me somewhat. I'll try and sedate them or something next time. I'm kidding. I'm
Oh
kidding.
my.
But yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.